Hey everyone, I'd like to welcome you to an unusual topic for this channel. As a good friend of mine is passionate about the Farming Simulator series and has collected very interesting material on the subject, I decided to join in the creation of this iceberg. English is not my native language, so I apologize in advance for any minor mistakes in grammar or vocabulary. The material we are going to present to you is based on Iceberg, whose authors are Stachu and Sponge, whom I thank for providing additional information. A link to it is in the description. I also encourage you to take a look at my friend's other channel with music, to which you will also find a link in the description. Without further ado, we can begin.
Farming Simulator, as most of you probably know, also comes out periodically for mobile devices. However, these are not ports from stationary platforms, but special parts prepared with mobile gaming and the limitation of hardware that can fit in your pocket. If we talk about the mobile version, we usually mean smartphone ports, less often PS Vita or Nintendo Switch, and such games installments as Farming Simulator 23, 20, 18, 16 or even 14. There's even a special version of the game coming out in 2024 for younger players called Farming Simulator Kids. The first mobile farming was the one in 2012, released under different names for different platforms. However, we will deal with this topic a little later. Giant's Editor is a tool for creating game modes for Giant Software Studio. It allows you to create new maps, machines or objects. Since the selection and number of functions in this tool is huge, with a little knowledge you can easily create mods for Farming Simulator and share them on the internet. Deutz F1 M414 is a vintage tractor obtainable in Farming Simulator 2011. With the acquisition of half of the achievements comes the possibility of buying it in the store. Despite having the appropriate attachments, this tractor does not have the ability to cut grass. Due to its low performance and small size, it remains a curiosity rather than a useful part of the farm. The maps in the first three parts of Farming Simulator have one thing in common. What exactly? Well, they do not have a name, or at least it may seem so, since they are not directly given. In the first two parts, we do not have a menu for selecting a map, and it is there that we most often learn its name. However, in the case of Farming Simulator 2008, we have clues leading to the solution of the puzzle. The game's manual includes a description of the island on which we will play. I managed to find two slightly different instructions. In one it says the name Insel der Giganten, while in the other, Giant's Island. Unfortunately, in the case of Farming Simulator 2009, there is no such information, given the fact that the map of the 9th is an expanded version of the one from Farming Simulator 2008, we can conclude that the name is the same. For simplicity, we can assume the name Giant's Island 2008 for Farming Simulator 2008 and Giant's Island 2009 for Farming Simulator 2009. And what about 11? Here we only have Map 01 visible in the map selection menu. Lizard is an alternate brand created by Giant Software for products without a license, which can be found in all games of this studio, with the exception of Farming Simulator 2008. Most of the machines under the Lizard brand are counterparts of real-world machines. Farming Simulator 2009 Gold Edition is an add-on for Farming Simulator 2009. It was released most likely on January 6, 2010. A number of changes and innovations were introduced to the game. The most important of these were new licensed horse machines, 4 new missions, and improved controller support. A certain Easter egg was also added. In Poland, the add-on was not particularly marked and was sold together with the game in the box you see on the screen. In the first 3 parts of the series, in addition to career mode, it was possible to play various missions. Some of them played the role of a tutorial, introducing the player to the game world. The player was tasked with farming, harvesting crops, or exploring the map. There were also more difficult tasks such as obstacle courses or pushing stones off the fields during the fog. These missions were made in such a way that to complete them, you had to do the task as fast as you can without exceeding the time limit. For completing them, player was rewarded with medals. Later, the missions evolved into tutorials abandoning the more twisted tasks in favor of simpler ones, allowing new players to learn the mechanics of the game. Multiplayer mode is a feature that was introduced for the first time in Farming Simulator 2011. It allows players to play together on the same game save. Multiplayer mode is available on PC version as well as on the mobile devices. In the desktop version, players can connect with each other over the internet, and in mobile versions via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. Mods are a great way to customize your Farming Simulator game to your own taste. They can add new machines, maps, and even whole new features to the game. The first modifications appeared already in Farming Simulator 2008, and for many players, they are even mandatory to fully enjoy the game. Mods can be downloaded from the official mod hub or from any other mod website. Demo versions used to be a very common occurrence. A game demo is a time or function limited version of a game that allows players to try it out before buying the full version. Farming Simulator also had its demo versions. In FS 2008, 2009 and 2011, the demo looks similar and only allows you to play the first two missions. The last part of the game that had such a version was Farming Simulator 2013, in which you can play one mission and start the career mode, but without the possibility of saving the gameplay. Non-player character, or NPC for short, is a non-player controlled character in a computer game. In the case of Farming Simulator, there are passerby walking around in the more build-up parts of the map. They add immersion and life to the game. They do not have collisions, so it is impossible to physically interact with them. Walking NPCs first appeared in Farming Simulator 2011. There is an Easter egg associated with them. In 17, on Halloween, they start to move around like zombies. There are many species of animals in the Farming Simulator series. The first Farming Simulator installment to feature animals was the one released in 2011. However, as for the species of animal that was added then, it was cows. In the add-ons available to this part, we get for the first time possibility to put beehives, but they only bring passive income and you cannot take care of them. With the release of subsequent parts, additionally appeared other livestock such as chickens, sheep, pigs and horses. Mechanics and breeding methods have also developed a lot. I mentioned earlier about bees. These, in a new form, appeared in Farming 22. You can now collect honey from the apiary or increase yields by placing hives near, for example, rapeseed. Other animals such as dogs and deer have also appeared in the latest installments. Facilities are a great way to lower the costs of running a farm because many of them provide passive income. The first objects with ability to be placed anywhere on a map appeared in the DLC for Farming 2011. These facilities included wind and solar power plants, and in the near future, beehives or greenhouses. With each subsequent game, new objects were added, including decorations or buildings. Probably each of you, while playing Farming Simulator series, found a bottle, horseshoe or any other collectible. These have been with us almost since the beginning of the series, starting with the previously mentioned bottles, ending with toys. But here the question arises: what benefits you can get for collecting them? In FS 2009, for throwing the collected bottles into containers, the player receives a discount on all machines in the store. In release from 2011, the matter is similar, except that instead of discounts in the store, the player receives more money for sold machines. Farming Simulator 2013 moved away from the idea of collecting bottles and changed them into horseshoes. After collecting them, the player does not receive a reward right away, but has to wait for the rain. When it stops, you can see a rainbow in the sky, at the end of which there is a cauldron filled with gold, for lifting which the player received around $1 million. In FS15, the collectibles are gold coins, for collecting which the player receives field silos. However, in order to collect the reward, one must go to the well, located near field 40. In Farming 17, gold nuggets can be found, for which the player receives $1 million. What is surprising is the fact that in Farming 19, there are no finds. This, however, return in the latest installment of the series. On the Elm Creek map, we search for toys. For collecting one, player receives $1,000, and for collecting a collection, $100,000. In total, for all 100 toys, the player receives around $1 million. On the Erlengrad, the player must look for cheese, of which there are 12 on the map. For collecting all dairy product, the player receives $240,000. The last collectibles are game cartridges. On the Hoyt Baileron map for fighting all 20, the player received a total of $1 million. Online forums unite fans of this popular agricultural simulator. Players can discuss the game, share screenshots, videos, mods, maps, get support from the other players, or look for people willing to play together in multiplayer mode. Such forums are not necessarily limited only to this one game. They also offer a category for discussions on other topics. Unfortunately, the popularity of such sites is declining due to thriving Discord servers offering more features and easier access. Farming Simulator 2011 Platinum Edition is an edition of the game containing the base game along with a set of 3 add-ons. Completely new content has been added to the game, expanding existing gameplay. In addition to new licensed machines, from now on the player could earn money on renewable energy sources such as wind turbines or solar panels. A functional biogas plant also appeared on the map. The player could also take care of tomatoes, lettuce or herbs in greenhouses, providing them with water and manure, and even built his own apiary by putting up beehives. Logging and wood processing first officially appeared in Farming Simulator 15. However, already in previous parts using mods, players were able to engage in this activity. Forest mod is a collection of modifications adding the appropriate equipment for working in the forest. Unfortunately, only trees added in the modification could be felled, which was not a problem because special maps with full support for this modification began to appear on the internet. The history of the package dates back to Farming Simulator 2011, but only in Farming 13 it achieved considerable success, and most likely then it was noticed by the developers and implemented officially in the next part of the series. Despite the constant updating of the engine, you cannot see diametrical differences between older Farming Simulator installments. Giant Software seems to have not stood tall when it comes to graphical aspects in their games. Let us take as an example Farming Simulator 2013, when this one looked like this. It was even a few years older games looked like this. But that changed with the release of Farming 19. Unlike previous titles in the series, the game received an upgraded graphics engine. The world of the game has gained much more details, which can be seen by comparing it with the previous part of the series. Giant's engine is a game engine for almost all games of Giant Software Studio. This engine is mainly used to create games in the Farming Simulator series, but is also the basis for Sky Region Simulator 2012 or Demolition Company. Giant's engine is regularly updated with new features and new components to support new technologies. Farming Simulator Traffic serves the same function as working NPCs, adding a bit more life into the game world. Traffic appeared for the first time in Farming Simulator 2009, in which you could even see a driver and detailed interior of various vehicles. Unlike walking folk, cars feature collisions. Not only that, they can be pushed off the road or knocked over. Let's cast the stone first, we didn't do that. In FS11 and FS13, traffic scored a small regress, namely the interiors of vehicles lost a lot of detail and drivers there look like a mannequins sunk into concrete. Another change applies to the following: FS15, 17, 19 and 22. The interiors regain detail, but the best traffic element has been changed. In these installments, vehicles are literally attached to the road, so it's now sadly impossible to push them into the nearest water reservoir. And what about mobile versions? In FS12 and FS14, vehicles can be pushed and have a visible interior along with the driver. In FS16 and 18, on the other hand, there are no drivers. However, those drivers return in subsequent installments, except that the vehicles are once again permanently fixed to the road surface. As with many other games, our Swiss Farming Simulator also has its own website. The farmingsimulator.com website is rich in all kinds of content. There is news and information about the game in the series, a gallery, technical support, tutorials, updates or mods. There are also links to purchase game merchandise, the official forum or the Giant Software Studio website. However, this we all know. So how has the site changed all over the years? The first surviving version of the site is the one from January 2009, so even before the release of LS 2009. And because of that, the site is fully dedicated to the first installment of the game. You can find information about the machines, download the demo version, or learn the results of the first mod contest. Despite the lack of photos, I managed to download the winning mods. According to the jury, it was the Deutz-Fahr Agrotron X720, and according to the players, the John Deere 6120. The site remained archaic until 2012, at which point, with the release of Farming Simulator 13, the site underwent drastic visual changes in the likeness of the game. The functionality itself remained unchanged, while it was developed over time by, for example, adding a language change to the site or a mod tab. As of 2016, the site took on a more minimalistic look that is still with us today. Everyone knows that feeling when after a fruitful harvest you can finally buy the machine of your dreams. The store appeared for the first time in Farming Simulator 2009. Then, its operation was greatly simplified. You could only buy or sell machines. That's it. In the next installment, the machine store gained in legibility by adding categories. 13 improved the system from its predecessor by adding sorting. You could sort by brand or type of the machine. This also applies to any modifications. FS15 only made visual changes to the store for improved readability. In Farming Simulator 17, the developers combined sorting machines from the base with machines from mods. In 19, subcategories appeared, which allowed better navigation among the huge number of machines. The latest installment of the series completely changes the operation of the store. As before, we have a standard division into categories and subcategories, but heavily expanded. Brands are now displayed alphabetically. A separate category for vehicles and tools appears. A new feature is the packages category, allowing you to quicker purchase of equipment for given activity. For example, the grain package has all the common necessary items for growing, for example, wheat or barley. Also, new are second-hand items, usually at lower prices. The last category is mods and DLC, which makes it easier to purchase, for example, machines from a particular add-on. Let's briefly turn to mobile versions. FS12 has a similar way of operating the store as FS 2009. In FS14, 16 and 18, we already have a categorization. In FS20 and FS23, the matter is similar to FS15. From the beginning of the Farming Simulator series, Giant Software has taken care of licensing the machines. You probably know that magical feeling when in the game you can ride the tractor you see outside your window as it walks in the field or passes you on the road. Beginnings are known to be difficult, which is why the first game in the series featured only Fendt machines. The number, however, with each game grew by such brands as Deutz-Fahr, Krone, Case, Amazone or Ursus. Currently, with the numbers of licenses, Giant Software literally crushes other agricultural simulators. FarmCon is an annual event focused on the game community Farming Simulator organized by Giant Software. It is an opportunity for fans of the game from around the world to meet, share their passion for virtual farming and learn more about the future of the series. FarmCon offers a wide range of activities and attractions such as panel discussions and presentations, demo zones, or contests and challenges. A live broadcast is also being conducted. You've probably caught a glimpse at some point, whether it is so-called Russian bootlegs or Brazilian GTA 7 on the PS2. Farming did not escape this fate as well. Tractor Simulator Serbia is, as the titles say, a bootleg from Serbia by Dejan M, which also deals with bootlegs of other games such as GTA or ETS2. The Serbian Farm Simulator most likely came out in 2011, but only as a digital version. It is characterized by low quality, already visible in the very main menu. The map has been heavily redesigned. New are the machines typical for Serbian villages. Let's now move on to the beer-flowing country, that is the Czech Republic. Their Farming Simulator was released under the name Tractor Simulator. FS 2009 was titled as Tractor Zetor Simulator 2009 and had additional Zetor branded machines that were of poor quality compared to the original machines from Giant. It was released on physical media, and from the information that I was able to collect, it looks like it was quite a legitimate version, but now the developers advise against its purchase. It was distributed with permission from Giant Software, but they had no control over the add-ons that the Czech added to the release. The same goes for the DLC for Tractor Simulator 2 or FS11. The expansion was called Plekowa Kawaleria and added a new map and game machines in the atmosphere of an old Czech village. In Hungary, Farming Simulator was called Farmer Simulator and also, like the Czech, had an interesting addition. We are talking about Farmer Simulator 2011. Mezogepek. It was an add-on for FS11 released on physical media, which added to the game machine typical of Hungarian villages and a new map. This add-on is a slightly modified Plekowa Cavalry add-on. The elements on the map from Czech has been changed to Hungarian and the machines are unlicensed. Worth mentioning is a Polish creation called Czasu, which was a kind of mod pack for FS 2008. Before Farming Simulator, there was another game with an agricultural theme, and that was Simtractor. The author of the game is a French computer science student, Benoit Brabant. Simtractor was distributed digitally under a shareware license on the website simtractor.com. The game was of interest to Astragon. He wanted to publish it under his wings, but the author refused, claiming that Simtractor was still an unfinished project. Astragon then also found Giant Software willing to develop an agricultural game. Returning to the topic of Simtractor, STD Fusions was appointed to work on the V4 version of the game with the original author in the lead. The game gained a ton of new features and improvements. Currently, Simtractor is a somewhat forgotten project. It has been overshadowed by the success of Farming Simulator, and new versions have stopped being released. ProFarm is an official add-on for Farming Simulator 2011 created by Halicon Media. The DLC adds a ton of new features, including a completely new map, new Holland tractors, and Fliegl machines. There is also an DLC of sorts to the add-on, and that is the ProFarm Gold Edition, which could be obtained by entering a key on the developer's website. It adds new machines and textures from the Riverside map to use it on the other maps. While playing Farming Simulator 2011, one place marked with a compass on the PDA map probably caught your attention. In addition, while working in the field next to the ski lift, you probably noticed a green marker which, after all, took you to that location. This is a vantage point. Through binoculars spread in a circle, you can observe important places on the map such as the farm, the castle, brewery, or mill. In addition to decorative aspects, this place can serve as a landmark for new players. Missions were a novelty in Farming Simulator 2013, but not the same as before because they were phone missions available in career mode. From time to time, the player received a phone call to perform a certain task laced with a short story. There were two types of missions in the game: transport missions and grass cutting. These can be discarded, but at the beginning of the game, it is a good way to earn a few pennies. The missions are timed, and the faster the player completes the tasks, the bigger the bonus he will receive. In Farming 15, the telephone was dropped and it was placed appeared a bulletin board that works on a similar principle. The developer console in Farming Simulator is a tool that allows players to access various functions and commands that are not available in normal gameplay. It can be used to test the game, troubleshoot problems, or simply for fun. To enable it, change the value of controls from false to true in the game.xml file. To bring up the console, click the tile during the game. An interesting Easter egg can be found in Farming Simulator 17 on the Gold Crest Valley map. It is an arcade machine located in the forest at the edge of the map. It is connected with a certain dark story. It bears the inscription Polybius. According to urban legend, it is a rare slot machine released in 1981. The game was allegedly very popular, but players reported strange things about it, such as hearing a woman cry or seeing a faces displaying for a split second, which later turned into nightmares. According to the version of bar owner, black clad man collecting data from it. There was a theory that the government was concluding research regarding subliminal messages. All the vending machines evaporated after a month. Polybius is an automaton whose existence cannot be confirmed by any concrete evidence. More Realistic is a modification for Farming Simulator 2013 that provides a more realistic game experience. The mod introduces a number of changes affecting various physical parameters and elements of game mechanics. Its goal is to introduce a missing dose of realism into the game to make it more believable. Among the most important aspects of the mod are adaptive cruise control, loading the vehicle to affect fuel consumption, improved vehicle behavior on sloping pavement, vehicle weight affects the vehicle braking, sprays are metered according to speed, and much more. In FS11 and FS13, one of the traffic elements was a tanker track from a diary. Some people may think that it was useless. Nothing could be further from the truth. As we know, cows give milk, but in these parts of the series the mechanics of how cows operate was not as developed and we could not collect the milk ourselves. That task belonged to this particular tanker from the Supreme Milk Diary. It would come to collect the milk and the player would automatically receive the money for it. Sky Region Simulator 2012 is a game by Giant Software Studio based on the idea of running a sky resort. In the game, the player faces challenges faced by the technical services, such as making out roads, transporting injured people, or preparing the slopes. To make the gameplay more realistic, the creators have made an effort to include licensed for Bits and Bully or Case and Broma machines. The production lived to see also two expansions. A demo of the game was available on the disc with Farming Simulator 2013. Unfortunately, the game did not gain as much popularity as Farming Simulator, but it still has a loyal fanbase. Demolition Company is a game by Giant Software in which we take care of the functioning of a fictional company specializing in demolition of buildings. The game consists of 30 missions located in a continuously modernized industrial city. The task usually consists of demolishing vacant buildings using specialized tools and machines and then taking the rubble to the storage site. During the execution of orders, we can use such equipment as jackhammer, concrete saw, or explosive charges, while when we need to use vehicles, several types of excavators and cranes are at our disposal, as well as bulldozer. The game features a scenario editor that gives you the ability to create your own missions. A gold add-on was available for the game, adding new missions and machines. On the Ravenport map in Farming Simulator 19, we can find at least several caves. However, one of them stands out. It is located under the old mill near Field 7. It can be entered in two ways: a steep descent located in the mill and from the side of the road near the fields number 6. It is distinguished by the items inside: a blanket, a deck chair, a radio with speaker, a towel and soundproofing headphones. The whole thing looks like a resting place for one of the locals. The developers seem to have lacked the idea of the caves and as a result have dedicated an entire location on the Elm Creek map in FS22. After leaving the trail, you can go deeper into the cave. The developers didn't put there an Easter egg like in FS19, but they still encourage you to visit it by placing there several toys to collect. Hearing classical machines or farming classics will probably make you think about free add-ons available for FS13 or 15. Originally, it was an add-on created for an earlier installment of the series and was an add-on paid for and released on physical media. This expansion pack includes 8 classic tractors from manufacturers such as Hutt, Goldner and Butcher, as well as a range of classic equipment including a Far combine harvester, a Hassia seeder and a wooden barrel for manure, as well as many other. Starting a new game in older installments of the series, the player's attention was drawn to the blade, which turned out to be absolutely useless. It first appeared in Farming Simulator 2008 and in theory was to be used for pushing stones from the field. At first glance, no stones are visible, but they are only found in a few small fields near the chapel and for this it is impossible to move them. However, we used the blade in one of the missions involving the clearing of the road from the fallen trees lying on it. In FS 2009, stones do not appear in the fields at all, and the blade is only useful in missions.
There are no missions using the blade in FS11, but
in both parts, there are a few objects that can be pushed through, but they do not interfere with field work. This entry is fairly fresh at the time of writing. It concerns a leak from Epic Games regarding Farming Simulator 25. It happened through Epic Database, a service that operates on a similar basis principle as a Steam database. Along with farming, we also learned about other unannounced games, for example Red Dead Redemption, a remastered Oblivion, Remnant 3 or Final Fantasy 16. We didn't have to wait long for Giant Software's response, and they confirmed the leak and published the trailer for the game. Golf cars are an Easter egg in Farming Simulator 2013. There are 4 such vehicles available on the map and the player can get into each one. Unfortunately, even after finding one, it is not possible to jump to it with tab. The maximum speed of a golf cart is 26 km per hour. One of the cars is located in the middle of the golf course, another stands in the parking lot next to the golf course. The third is located slightly west from the previous one, in the parking lot at the back of the ATM building. The last golf cart you will find in the north on the island. Just cross the bridge and you will find it behind the caravan. Not everyone knows that in Farming Simulator 2011 you could whistle. Interestingly, this was not a useless activity. By whistling, you could herd cows, and by doing it skillfully, it was possible to lead them to the milking machine. On the West Bridge Hills map in FS13 and FS15, we can find old palm tracks on the edges of the map. Most of them are located in small fields, but there are also 2 possible to meet alone. They have only a decorative function, especially since the map is modeled on areas in North America. At first glance, field 14 on the Goldcrest Valley map looks like any other field. However, after planting it with grass and waiting for it to grow, we can see an Easter egg from the developers, namely, we can see an American flag pattern on it. The developers have always been very positive about modifying their games. For this reason, on their website there were tutorials for creating mods. In points, they were described the process of creating models, scripts and much more. In order to encourage more people to try their hand on creating modifications, the developers include video tutorials along with Farming Simulator 2013 Titanium Edition. And later such tutorials appeared on Giant Software's website and were updated with the release of each new part. Farming Simulator's mod contest is a competition in which players can create and submit their mods for the game. This mod can include new maps, vehicles, tools and other elements that improve gameplay. The contest is held every year and the winners receive prizes. The first mod contest was held after the release of Farming Simulator 2008. Stonehenge is one of Europe's most famous megalithic structures dating back to the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. This cromlech is located 13 kilometers north of Salisbury in Wiltshire, southern England. But what connection does it have with farming? The map in Farming Simulator 2009 appears to be a combination of Germany and England, and the British accent in it is Stonehenge, located at the left edge of the map. It involves an Easter egg which I will discuss in detail later. Farming Simulator 20 was the first mobile farming so close to the big platform version. Everything went according to plan, right? Well, not exactly. The game has a lot of problems and has been heavily sliced from content. Optimization of the game is at a low level, even though the game itself has a very low resolution. It still runs on average, and the trailer showed something extremely different. Another problem is cut content relative to the previous part. Multiplayer mode was missing and forestry work became impossible. The intelligence of the workers has been depleted and they often fail to get the job done correctly. In addition, FS20 flopped on price. Players complain about the sizable price premium on the Switch versus the phone version. Farming Simulator 2011 was also released in a collector's edition. So what does such a collector's edition look like? The whole thing comes in a steelbook and its content consists of manual, game disc in a transparent jewel box, poster and the most important element of the collector's box, a model of Deutz Fahr Agrotron along with a trailer created by Siku. Farming Simulator 19 C64 edition is a version of the Farming Simulator game developed for the Commodore 64 computer. It was originally part of the collector's edition of Farming 19, but is also available separately as a digital download. The game has typical Farming Simulator gameplay, except that it is from an isometric perspective. There are 3 tractors and 1 combine that the player can control. They are based on the Case, Fendt and John Deere, and also New Holland brands. The game can be a real treat for all players raised on this equipment, but also for its enthusiasts. Bug with the implement attaching is a bug that occurs in older parts of Farming Simulator, driving up to some implements such as plow or a blade, so that it caught the script but not necessarily the way we should drive up, for example from the front of the blade. It would shoot the player along with the implement into the sky, which was quite funny. Lizard was not the only fictional giant software brand. There was also the Rollo brand appearing in the merchant company, Sky Region Simulator 2012, and in Farming Simulator. The aforementioned milk tanker is actually a Rollo branded truck, more specifically the Rollo 3843. In Sky Region Simulator, this brand is signed by a rescue helicopter, and in Demolition Company, excavators and debris crusher. Unfortunately, the development of this brand was abandoned already in Farming Simulator 15, and only the Lizard brand remained. Farming Simulator 2011 Complete Edition is a little known edition of the game containing the basic game, a set of add-ons, and DLC classic machines. This is the most complete edition you can buy in a physical edition. Farming Simulator in 2023 lived to see its own magazine. This quarterly magazine is available in both digital and paper versions. In as many as 7 languages, it offers the latest news from the Farming Simulator world, interviews with developers and farming influencers, information on events, and much more. In addition, the creators include an exclusive goodie in each issue, not available in the Giant Software store. I was able to find some of Farming's appearance in TV documentaries. Starting chronologically, we have an interview with Chris and Manuel playing FS 2009 on the BR Fernsehen channel. They are 2 of the 3 modders of an SFM teams. The interview begins by getting to know Chris briefly. He is a plastic miller and in his spare time he works on his uncle's farm, which owns 7 acres of grassland. The topic shifts to farming when Chris talks about cultivating the fields, fertilizing, and the profit he will use for new machinery. He talks about how he is fulfilling his dreams of becoming a farmer and about running an online forum. We see even the process of creating the now iconic Kirow's K700A mod. Next footage in order is this one from the Pixelmacher program broadcast on the ZDF Kultur channel. It shows the work of the Giant Software Studio on Farming Simulator 2013. In the footage you can see animations of animals or models of machinery which are developed with the help of CAD data from manufacturers with whom the developers cooperate. A little later there is an interview with modder Lucas Goll. Not much is known about the third documentary as it is hard to dig up. It is a short video from Schaffenhauser Fernsehen TV in which you can see the Giant Software logo on a mailbox and Stefan going to collect mail from it. There is also a footage from the Dreisat channel on the Kulturzeit program where there is most likely an interview with Stefan Geiger, one of the founders of the Giant Software. Farming Simulator even scored a brief moment in the Tagesschau, the German news, when discussing Gamescom 2012. Quite fresh is the NDR's channel footage of Farming Simulator League. Footage shows 2 teams competing, interviews with players, spectators and organizer of the event. Also worth mentioning is an interview with the sound designer of the Giant Software, conducted by DCTP.tv during Gamescom 2013. Do you remember Stonehenge? There I mentioned a certain Easter egg associated with it. It is an UFO that appears at midnight above this structure. However, it will happen only after completing all missions for gold. To the disappointment of some, it cannot abduct the player. Giant Software, as I mentioned, likes modders. When creating a mod, we can start from scratch, but the developers offer us so-called sample mods. These are examples and samples for mods makers, which can be used to create their own mods. The first mods of this type appeared in Farming Simulator 2011. Sample mods can be loaded in the game by dropping them into the mods folder. Farming Simulator 2013, relative to other parts of the series, had many unique mechanics. One of them was auctions. From time to time the player was informed about the action of some fields on the map, so he could buy it much cheaper. There must be a catch to this, and of course there is. The bidding is time limited, and on top of that, there are competing computer farmers. Attention must also be paid to the price so as not to outbid the nominal price by accident. This is a great mechanic, and I kind of don't understand why it was abandoned in subsequent parts of the game. Installation of modifications in the first installment of the series was not as easy as in the newer parts, so players had to manage somehow. That's how LSMS was created, a tool for more intuitive installation of mods and allowing to change some game options. The program uses files with LSME format, which was a slightly modified format of the usual RAR archive. Looking through 13 files, one comes across some interesting unused files. These are store graphics. Let's start with store.01.tds. Despite its total uselessness, the creators had plans to add the blade to the game again. It is even possible that they planned to make it a more useful tool, but it was eventually abandoned. Slightly more interesting seems to be the file storepalette.tds. The graphic shows a wooden palette with something resembling a crate. However, it is not clear what its intended use was. As a curiosity, one more file is worth mentioning, namely storeempty.tds. This is a blank store graphic, probably serving as the developer as a template for other machines. But that's not all that the store graphics in FS13 hide. Browsing through them, you can come across a graphic depicting a Deutz Fahr Agro Plus 420. What's so exciting about it? Namely, this tractor does not appear in the game itself, despite the fact that it can be seen that it was completed. And why?
Its model is twinned with Sim's Argon 75, which already appears in the game. We even receive it at start. The similarity is due to the fact that both brands belong to the same Deutz Fahr concern, and in the process of creating the 420 Agro Plus for the game, there is a possibility that Giant Software did not yet have a license for the same brand.
Once again, we stay on the topic of the store. As it's known in the game, we can buy a Deutz Fahr Agro Farm 430 only in the version with a front loader. It was the same in FS11. However, in the files, there is a graphic showing the tractor without the front loader. We can only ask ourselves why this one was not added to the game. Farming Simulator 2012 is the first mobile part of the series, but also the series first came to consoles. It came out for 3 platforms: Nintendo 3DS, iOS and Android. Giants experimented with the name for different platforms. Farming Simulator Casual Edition on Android, Farming Simulator 2012 on iOS, Farming Simulator 3D for 3DS in the US versions, and Farming Simulator 2012 3D for 3DS in the European versions, and Farming Simulator 3D Pocket Neon for 3DS in the Japanese version. The game was properly adapted to the hardware limitations, but was still an interesting alternative for mobile gamers. Farming Simulator 2012 offered wheat, canola and corn farming, and licenses such as Deutz Fahr, Krone, Horsch, Amazon, Lemken, Arkusin, Krampe, and Vogel and Nut. Farming Simulator is unlikely to be associated with major controversy yet. The animal rights organization, PETA, has taken an interest in news of the addition of pigs to Farming Simulator 17. Studio Giant Software was introduced by them not to censor the slaughter of the pigs for meat. The organization asked to include video footage of the slaughterhouse to show players how the pigs are slaughtered. The Swiss developers did not bow to the expectation of the PETA organization. There was a pretty funny Easter egg in Farming Simulator 15. You probably ever encountered a sign depicting moose on the Bjornholm map. In the lower right corner of the map, there is a slight chance of seeing moose crossing the road. However, these are not regular moose. They are just a flat black outline with no collision. The handy PDA is a feature found in older installments of the Farming Simulator series. In FS 2008, it was very minimalistic and contained only the most important information. For example, profits, game time, fuel used, distance traveled or hectares worked. In 9, the PDA was improved and took its most popular form. After booting up, the first page shows a map, the view of which can be zoomed in or out by pressing the 9 key. The next category is the weather forecast for the next 4 days. Moving on, we have grain purchase prices in available points and information on price decrease or increase. The last category is statistics. Thanks to them, the player knows how much grain is in a given silo, how much fuel he has used, his balance, how many battles he has collected, and his reputation. In FS11, the PDA has 2 pages of statistics because of the novelties in this part of the game. Information has been added on the number of cows owned, the amount of milk and manure, the amount of grass in the manager, the amount of chaff, and has written information on fuel used, hectares worked, and game time. The last farming in which the player had a handheld computer at his disposal was 13. Statistics were trimmed down to only the content of silos, but there was a finance category summarizing the player's gains and losses a given day. The PDA disappeared in Farming Simulator 15 and all information is located in the pause menu. Leaving aside the 2012 mobile FS, We can consider that Farming Simulator 2013 was the first big farming on consoles. It came out for Xbox 360 and PS3 in 2013. It was not a typical one-to-one copy of PC version. We see the first differences right from the start. The menus and interface have obviously been adapted to consoles, and the color scheme is more like that of the Titanium edition. Another rather large difference is machines. Their numbers has been reduced, but to sweeten the deal, developers have added some machines from the add-ons. Also, the arrangement of machines at the start differs from the PC versions. We don't get the same argon at the start. The Burrer tractor stands ready to cultivate the field, and the Kramer KL200 tractor has been replaced by a smaller number of Kramer KL600S. Also, we have the opportunity to play on the Westbridge Hills map from the Titanium Edition add-on. This is where my knowledge of the subject ends. I try to check everything on my own, but I do not own any of the consoles, and emulators refuse to work with farming. If you have more tidbits from the release, then feel free to write a comment. I'll be happy to pin a heart. Farming Simulator Silver is a DLC for FS15, available only on 7th generation consoles, especially for PS3 and Xbox 360. However, owners of the game on these platforms have a little reason to be proud. The add-on is a version of the gold add-on trimmed by the Sosnovka map.
There was an interesting bug in Farming Simulator 2009 when the game encountered a problem while loading a save caused by, for example, installing a batch of shitty mods. The loading screen would freeze and the sound of ship's siren would play ever so often. This error was relatively rare, and because of that, the siren could scare the young players of 9 quite a bit.
There was an interesting bug in the older installments of the series. It manifested itself rather on weaker PCs, but I bet that with the right amount of mods and more powerful hardware could experience it. Especially, it is about the menu music playing during the game, so why did I mention weaker PCs? The bug was about loading the save for too long. Most of us FS players didn't always have or still don't have a very good PC, and playing without mods was missing the point, so loading times were getting longer. A beta version of a game is an early version available to a small group of players who test it and give feedback. The beta version often contains bugs and unfinished features, but it allows players to get an early look at the game before it releases. This entry focuses on the beta versions of the first 3 games in the Farming Simulator series. Let's start with Farming Simulator 2008. Despite the residual information on the Farming Simulator wiki, there is a brief mention of a beta version. It's not satisfactory, but it leads to a YouTube video created by Giant Software to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the series. For the first few seconds, we are shown something along the lines of a trailer for the game, still signed as Bauernhof Simulator. We can see a slightly brighter texture of the grain and the soil on which it grows. Also, the map seems to be different from what we got. The road has been divided into 2 lanes, the mountain in the distance draws attention, and the terrain itself is a bit more varied. At this point, I thought that was all I could find. Nothing could be further from the truth. YouTube allows you to search for older videos by adding before, example 2009, to your search, by which it was easier to dig for material. This is how I dug into the full version of the trailer. After the moments known for the previous footage, it can be seen that the animation of turning the steering wheel has not yet been implemented, as well as the semi-trailer visible at the end. I also found some screenshots from this version of the game. In the first one we can see a Fendt combine, but what draws attention in this screenshot is the lack of a HUD, or more precisely its prototype. This one also scrolls on the next screen. There is already a clock in the corner of the screen and help at the bottom in the middle. They are simplified only to white lettering. This screenshot is most likely from an early version of the game, as the road on which the tractor stands suddenly ends, as well as being in a yet undeveloped area. Moving on, we have a part of a map shown from a bird's eye view, and it is definitely poorer in detail than in the final version. The next screen shows the farm moments after the launch of the new save. The differences are minor, but we can see the lack of straw cubes in the shed, the different location of the smaller Fendt, and the lack of header for one of the combines. In the fifth screen grab, we can closely admire the original grain texture, which in my opinion was not bad. The last screen that divides from a final version is the one showing Fent with a trailer. The best thing you can see on it is that the skybox back then was of much lower quality. The HUD was enriched with the weather forecast under the clock, and in the lower corner of the screen, the speed at which the player is currently moving is given. It's time for Farming Simulator 2009. Here we start with a pre-release article on the game showing a screenshot of the new release. There's also video footage and lots of it compared to its predecessor. On the NMNADN channel, there are 3 videos from the game's beta, or more precisely, tests conducted by channel's author. Starting chronologically, the first video shows how the game's physics work. A modded tether hitting random objects and machines testing their reactions. The next video shows a traffic check, how it behaves during and after a collision. Note that it is visible to the naked eye that the machines seem either unbalanced or the handling of the machines unfinished. Compared to the current version, this tether does not load the tractor as much as it is in the video. The last material has the most going on. At the very beginning, the author tests the load of the Fent with 4 trailers. A little later, you can see the loop and the fence passing through it. Another is the explosion of a huge number of beer crates. The last test shows the ramp and the traffic vehicles driving through it. Using the Wayback Machine, I got to some screenshots of the game in the early stages of production. Some of the more interesting changes include the coordinates display in the middle of the PDA, the fuel barrel in the place of the green silos, and the abbreviated names of the days of the week in the PDA. With Farming Simulator 2011, I thought it would be easy, but well, it wasn't. I started my search at Gamescom trailer. In the shot with Deutschwahl combine, you can see that the texture of the barrel is slightly darker, and the straw still has the look from the previous part. The farmer's model also remains from 9. The official trailer also shows a few changes. The main one is the map. In several shots you can see terrain in no way similar to the final version. Farming Simulator has its own advertising mascot since 2014. It is the cow Rosie. She appears at farming events and on social media. In the files of Farming Simulator 2009, there is an interesting unused content. It is, attention, flour. The name rightly suggests that it was originally a find instead of bottles, and the collection point would be in a flower shop on the map. In the game files, you can also find the sound of most likely lifting the flower, identical to that after unlocking the achievement in FS11. Remnants of this finder can also be found in the files in this part. The Gamescom Farming Simulator 15 trailer hides a curiosity. In the 10th second, for a moment, you can see a bus passing the New Holland tractor. There is no such bus in traffic in the game itself, and it is unclear why it did not appear in the final product. It could be programmed similarly to the milk tanker from older installments and, for example, stop at bus stops. It would certainly add more variety to the traffic and add more life to the game world. It is said that nothing gets lost online. However, this statement is not entirely true. Some users are still looking for lost media, lost by, for example, expired sites. With FS mods, it's similar. It's not easy to find something that can be even downloaded, and there can be a huge number of lost mods. However, I will deal only with the ones I think are the most interesting or popular. I'll focus on Farming Simulator 2008. If it were not for the huge interest of lovers of Farming Simulator, probably 90% of mods could be called lost. However, those archived all the mods found so that most of them can still be enjoyed by players, but also make it easier to search for those not yet found. I mentioned in one of the previous entries about the Czasu mod pack. It had various versions, and the one I'm showing in the recording was just a remake of version 2.5, which, like version 1.1, is still sought after by fans. Next on the list is a mod pack with a very creative name, mod pack by Ignatz. Like Czasu, it was based on an older Polish agriculture economy. The entire mod pack has not been found, but the map and several mods are still circulating on the internet. Another two are known to me only by name, and they are Slovenia mod packet and mod agri. There's no certainty what the first farming simulator video ever is. Probably there were some videos either on forums or anywhere else, or they were removed from the YouTube. At the moment, the oldest video is the one by Devil KKW, published the day after the game is released. The author of the video performs a mission in which he pushes logs off the road but does not finish the task but goes to the farm. As a curiosity, it is worth mentioning a few more videos. The second one is also by the same author. It was published 2 days after the previous one. Again, he performs the mission, this time about moving wheat. The third video is a presentation of the game, the author of which is user AlexDU74. It can be considered that it is the first video of the career mode. Data.s.gar is a file that can be found in the root directory of every game in the Farming Simulator series except FS 2008. It contains the script or graphics used in the interface. However, it still hides a certain Easter egg, namely, when trying to run the file with any text editor, one notices an interesting phrase. In 9 and 11, it is the phrase all about secrets, and in each subsequent one, all you can eat. In LS 2008, on the farm you can find beer crates signed with the original Giant's beer brand. For some reason, in the next installment the developers have changed this brand's logo to Quarf Syrup. The same logo has the brewery on the PDA. By collecting horseshoes, the player increases the chances of a certain Easter egg appearing. At midnight between field 23 and 32, there is a chance of a meteorite appearing. When it collides with the ground, a crater and glowing green mushroom appear around it. You can't interact with it in any way and it only functions as a curiosity.
Farming's German site, landwirtschaftssimulator.de, was already up and running before the game itself was released. At that time, the fresh Astragon find was thinking of simplifying or changing the existing name. Therefore, at the very beginning, it transferred into Farmer Simulator team. Soon after that, the footer of the site already showed the name of Giant Software, which we all know.
In LS 2009, although flower finds were dropped, the florist's shop on the map was not abandoned. To spice up the gameplay a bit, the developers added a kind of mission there in which you have to transport pallets to the store. In return, we receive payment. It is only surprising that so few people knew about it, including me. There is a marker informing us about this activity. When doing mission with exploring the map, it's hard not to notice it. Das große Giants Gold Bundle is an omnibus edition of 3 games from the Giants Software Studio in their most complete versions. This edition includes Farming Simulator 2009 Gold Edition, Demolition Company Gold Edition, and Farming Simulator 2011 Complete Edition. Giant Software Studio was already active in game dev before Farming. At that time it was still called GODS, or Gathering of the Developers in Switzerland, and their flagship albeit never completed product was Wilhelm Tell Dawn of a Legend, an action RPG game. The game had its own website where you can find a screenshot of the game and some concept art. A trailer for the game was also found, most likely. But that's not all. An archived Giant Software website dated May 13, 2008 has information about other projects. LSIM2 probably stands for the next installment in the Farming Simulator series. It's probably short for Landwirtschaftssimulator 2. It was the working name for the 9th. It gets more interesting a little higher up. As one screen from Warpets, a game planned for fall 2010 has been preserved. Not much is known about it, unlike Dawn of the Legend. It did not have its own website. The only puzzling thing is the sudden removal of the platform it was supposed to go live on. Now if you try to go to bauernhof-simulator.de, you will be redirected to farmingsimulator.com. Many snapshots from 2007 greet us with the message "Access forbidden," making the most interesting pre-release material inaccessible. It is only since 2008 that snapshots are partially working. The preserved page is downright crude. just text and hyperlinks. Nowhere on the page itself does the title Bauernhof Simulator appear, only Landwirtschaft Simulator. In the footer of the site, instead of Giant Software, it says mb-energy.de, owned by Martin Barwolf. mb-energy was working on another simulation game, namely Flughafen Simulator. It is possible that Martin is close to Giant Software as he still appears in the credits of the studio's games. Next, we have tabs. The Home tab, which takes us to the homepage, the News tab that shows news, which for that moment was not much. The more interesting tab is the Forum. It is divided into types of threads. The Bauernhof-Simulator online section catches the eye, which could mean that already in LS 2008 the developers were planning to include a multiplayer mode. This section was used for exchanging ideas or asking questions. The Links tab was still being upgraded. The only link there took you to landwirtschaft-simulator.de. In the Contact tab, there was an option to contact the developers, and in the Impressium there was basic data and information about the site's managing director, Martin Barwolf. The rest of the site is twinned with farming-simulator.com. The site was active until 2010, but since the release of FS 2009, it was almost identical to the familiar landwirtschaft-simulator.de or farming-simulator.com, and did not stand out in any way. The previous layer showed a video celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Farming Simulator series. As you may already know, the title was originally going to be a Bauernhof Simulator. For a moment in the 25th second of the footage, a screenshot from a very early stage of the game's development appears. The bar shows Bauernhof Simulator 0.0.1. This is the only thing we have from such an early version, but it already allows us to make a couple of assertions. The tractor resembles a class tractor in color and appearance, and this is confirmed by the fact that a combine of the same brand can be seen in the distance. This can be combined with the certain screenshot from the Farming Simulator beta in which we also see a class combine. It's possible that the developers sought a license for this brand. In addition to the vehicle, there are two trailers standing in the distance. The map in such an early version literally does not exist. The terrain is fairly flat, although the exception is a mountain and minor hills. Everything is poor in detail. The nearest trees are somewhere in the distance, only two slopely placed buildings are visible. Early footage of the game could be seen in the My Video series, but this is not possible with the Wayback Machine.
And that's the end of this iceberg. I encourage you to express your opinion about it and leave suggestions for more videos of this type. I remind you to check out other content on this channel and check out my friend's music channel. I also thank you for offering to collaborate and perform for you as a translator and voice-over artist. You can also drop by my channel, the link to it should be also in the description. Without further ado, stay tuned and we will hear from you. See ya!